on Trump, the Trump phenomenon, and what you can tell about the rest of the world by looking at their reaction to Trump?
Well, Trump is the equivalent of a Hollywood actor on the movie screen. And the anti-Trumps people are other actors in the movie. And so those people who get caught in it, oh yeah, he's the baddie. He's the baddie in this movie. That Trump, he's the baddie. Oh no, he's the goodie. He is the person I like. Right? It's a movie, and while we are focusing on this again, this minutiae of Trump, anti-Trump, left, right, and all this nonsense that we get caught into, Silicon Valley's doing what it is doing in terms of destroying freedom of information and driving on behalf of things like DARPA, the technological development arm of the Pentagon, this AI transhumanist agenda. It's a diversion. And just a quick one, I talk about this hidden hand. These here today, gone tomorrow politicians are just that. Here today, gone tomorrow. What we need to look at is that which is always there, because that's where the power is. That's what pushes this agenda on, no matter who's in power, who's the president, what party, whatever. A quick example. In September 2000, an organization in America called the Project for the New American Century published a document calling for the American government to, quote, fight and decisively win multiple theater wars, to bring about a series of regime changes. And it named the countries that they wanted to regime change: Iraq, Libya, Syria, Lebanon, Iran, North Korea, China. The people who published that document included Donald Rumsfeld, who a few months later would be Secretary of State for Defense in the Bush administration, Paul Wolfowitz, who would be his deputy at the Pentagon, Dick Cheney, who would be de facto president under Bush for 2 terms, Dov Zakheim, who would control the entirety of the Pentagon budget in that same period. In that document in September 2000, they said that this process of transformation, all these regime changes, would necessarily be slow, this is the quote, absent some catastrophic and catalyzing event like a new Pearl Harbor. 1 year to the month after that document was published, 9 months after the people that wrote it came to power in the Bush administration, the United States had, in September 2001, what Bush called at the time the Pearl Harbor of the 21st century. As a result of that, this process of regime change was triggered by the so-called war on terror justified by 9/11, which the official story of 9/11 is tragically laughable when you break it down and you see how the contradictions. Anyway, this is where I'm going in terms of the politicians and Trump. First man in, of course, officially, George W. Bush. They went into Afghanistan. Then, with Tony Blair lying about weapons of mass destruction, they went into Iraq. And the reason they lied about weapons of mass destruction is because Iraq was on this list of regime change. They didn't have an excuse, so they made one up. And by the way, let us not forget, people now, including even the mainstream media, accept that they were lied to over weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, which led to a catastrophic invasion and the catastrophe that has followed. Let us not forget that the very same people, not the same agencies, the same governments, the same personalities that told us there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq when they knew they weren't were the same people that gave us the official story of 9/11. Okay, so the list, Iraq. Then they go into Libya, also on the list. But now Bush is gone, Blair's gone. Now it's Barack Obama. He's a Democrat, not a Republican. And it's David Cameron. He's a conservative, not the illusory of Labour, Blair. But now they're going into another one on the list, and then into Syria. And again, creating mayhem and catastrophe. I mean, you know, Libya is one of the great world's basket cases now, when it was the highest per capita income country in Africa before they sent the boys in. And so that was Obama, and that was Cameron. Then we come to Trump. And Trump is now, yes, he's supposed to be a Republican, but he's the anti-establishment man. He's a maverick. A maverick who was going to drain the swamp and handed the American economy to Goldman Sachs from day one or before day one. But who is he demonizing now? He's demonizing Iran, and he's demonizing North Korea, other people on the list, other countries on the list. So this list from September 2000 has been ticked off all the way through these different politicians and different parties and different personalities. So no matter who's coming and going or who you're going to vote for, you know, it's like some Americans say, you know, it don't matter who you vote for, the government still gets in. Yes, the secret government. Because America is a wonderful example of how it works. So it works the same everywhere. During the Bush administration, and a Republican administration like now, you have this group that control the Republican Party that are acknowledged by the mainstream media. They're called neoconservatives or neocons. They were the people that created the Project for the New American Century, that wrote that document in September 2000. And then in the Democratic Party, you have another group very much the same that I call the democons. This is your George Soros's and Zbigniew Brzezinski before he died this year, and others. The key is that if you go one step back in the shadows, the neocons and the democons answer to the same master. So it means that whether it's one or the other, Republican or Democrat, that is always in power. And that's what's been driving this agenda of ticking these countries off as these people come in.